We're here at the Muleshoe School Board, and Victor Leal has been in Muleshoe today with a wonderful announcement. What is that, Victor?
Yes, ma'am, Megan. I'm running for the state Senate and Senate District 31, and today is our official day, first official day. Our press release will go out later today, and we'll have our website up, and today's official.
And now, why did you want to come to Muleshoe to make this first announcement?
Oh my gosh, this is my hometown. I mean, this is where I was raised. My dad got here in 1955. Actually got here in 1954. Jesse Leal married my mom in 55, and in 57, with $750, they opened up their restaurant, which is still going today. Matter of fact, this year we celebrated our 60th year in the restaurant business, and mom and dad have received all these awards. The point being is that this area is where it all started, the Leal business. I was raised here. I was educated here in public schools, had great coaches, had great teachers, and I thought no more appropriate place than the very first stop on this Senate campaign is in Muleshoe, Texas, at a school because I'm going to be a huge advocate for public schools, for getting teachers pay raises, making sure that we're getting more money into the classroom. I want to be a champion for school teachers and administrators, and figure out how we can do better, by our teachers and by our children.
Now, tell me, just why do you really want to run for our senator in the state of Texas? Why don't you just want to stay home?
Well, there is a feeling that you do want to stay home, that you don't want to get involved, but we don't have that luxury. I think that Dad taught us several very profound things, and one of the things that he always preached to us is nobody owes you a thing. Nobody owes you anything. Be grateful for everyone and for everything that you receive. And so he taught us that, but what he essentially taught us was you learn, you earn, and you return. You learn your craft. You learn at school. You go to school. You get a good education. You learn at the restaurant, whatever. If it's a vocation or a career, you learn, and then you apply your trade, your skill, your profession, and you earn. You raise your family, and then you return. You return to the community that has given you so much. This community, the communities across this district have given us so much. Debbie and I met in Monahans in 1983, which is the southernmost part of the district.
Now, how did you meet, Debbie, your wife?
Yeah, Debbie Leal, my wife, which is a saint, and the fact that we've been married 30 years just proves that fact, of course. But
certainly does.
Her uncle was curly beard, and he had an inspection service in Monahans back during the oil boom. In 83, and I graduated in 80. Pretty much, I came back
from Muleshoe High School.
Yes, and I came back. All the kids graduated from Muleshoe High School, with the exception of Abel. I think he graduated New Mexico Military Institute, but the rest of our siblings, 5 of us graduated were Muleshoe High grads, along with a slew of nieces and nephews. But I was in Monahans. I just opened up my restaurant, had a small loan with Dave Pointer, and I went and opened up a restaurant, and Debbie was working at the bank. And when I went through the drive-thru, she had the prettiest face and the bluest eyes that I'd ever seen, and I immediately fell in love. And I figured out that if I would just constantly go through the drive-thru and get a change, if I put enough change in there, she'd have to bring that out to me because it didn't fit in that little tube that goes up. So I kind of, and then finally after several months, I had the courage to ask her out. And for our first day, we went to Odessa to eat at a restaurant. Our second date, get this, I worked all the time back then. And I had this short window on Saturdays. I'd take off between 2 and 5, and I really wanted to see her. And I said, "Hey, you want to go ride around some?" And so I called her. She said, "Sure." So I picked her up, and I said, "Are you hungry?" She said, "Sure." So I thought, well, I'll impress her. I'll take her by the restaurant. And we stopped at the restaurant. Typically on a Saturday, you have a skeleton crew. You have, because it's not busy. Typically, it's not busy. So you have one cook in the back, 2 waitresses, and you just kind of trim down your crew. Well, we walked in, it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was empty. It was just her and I, and we were enjoying the conversation. I was, telling stories like I always do, and just falling into those deep blue eyes, and, just falling more and more in love. And Megan, all of a sudden this team of softball players comes in. So it's about 10 of them, and the waitresses are running around, and then another team comes in, and pretty soon the whole place is full because there's a softball tournament in town, and and I was nervous as all get out, and I mean, it's our second date. I don't know her, and I said, you have to excuse me. I'm going to have to go to work. And so I hopped up and excused myself and went to the kitchen, and I'm rolling enchiladas and, with this one other guy, and we're trying to get all the food out and get everybody fed. And I look over, no joke, and she's washing dishes. She went and found an apron, and she's washing dishes and I said, you don't need to do that. She's a farm girl from Mississippi. So for the next 2 hours, she washed dishes, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is horrible. She'll never go out with me again, but she did.
You wanted her right then in your kitchen.
She knew what she was getting into. So it wasn't false advertising. She knew that this line of work was a lot of work. So we met. Your question was, why do I want to represent this area? It's because I love the people of this area. For 60 years, folks like you, your family, your mom and dad, y'all used to eat with us back, when you take your own avocado when we had.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that was 57 when we first opened. We have pictures of that. And I think about you, how good you are to us still, what you do for us, at the station, what you do for the whole community, the service that you give. And you've been recognized, but the recognition really that it's important to you, I'm sure, is from the people that the people that recognize what you do. And one of the people, I remember my dad used to always call you, and certain one, I love that Al Jolson music you're playing. And Megan, you're doing a super job. And I'm going to guess, like, it means a lot to me when you get something it's a great thing to get an award from somebody down in Austin. But when you have a neighbor, somebody that you've grown up with, recognize
a thank you note.
That means a lot. And I think that my thank you note back to our communities, Amarillo, Muleshoe, Monahans, Big Spring, my thank you note is myself, is my service, is to say, here I am, how can I represent you? I want to do a good job. We have a very conservative district. I think I'm the best representative for that. I want to be the representative for the hardworking people in this area. There's so many folks that feel like they don't have a voice. I know because I talk to them all the time. They're just the working class folks that come into the restaurant, maybe working at the radiator shop or plumber. They have their name over their pocket, embroidered. And they're the folks that are doing the dirty work every day.
But it's important work.
It's important work. And you and I were taught that this is what keeps things moving. These are the unheralded heroes. These are the heroic folks that day in and day out don't complain, raise their families, send their kids to school. They play by the rules, and that's who I want to serve. I want to serve everybody, but in particular, a single mom, who's working 2 jobs and her kid's in public school. I want to work just as hard as she's working to get that kid a good education, to make sure that we have great schools. How do we do that? Well, there's a lot of ways we can do that, but I want to be that person. I want to make sure that we are keeping taxes and regulation low so a small business owner can open up a business, can still live the Texas dream. I'm an heir to the Texas dream. I mean, think about that. My grandfather back in the 1920s, Elias Victor Enzaldúa, sold tortillas out of a Model T in Mercedes, Texas, and then passed that on to my mom, that entrepreneurial spirit. My mom's the one that encouraged my dad to go into business back in 57. So she saw a need. Now, that's a dream. That's a story that we have, but it's everybody's story. Everybody has a dream, a desire to go, open up a little business or create something or start go be a doctor. We have those hopes and dreams and those struggles. And I want folks to know that Texas is still the place to do that. West Texas in particular. I want to just do great things for the heroic people, the unheralded heroes that just live their life day in and day out and never get recognized. That's what I want to.
In the 31st Senate District, how many counties are there?
37 counties.
37.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big area.
It's a pretty big area. So it stretches all the way from the top of Texas, takes a narrow strip down through Muleshoe, and then it expands back out and takes in Midland, Odessa, and Big Spring as well. So yeah, it's a huge, almost a million population.
What year did you come back to Muleshoe?
I was in Monahans. Of course, I graduated here in '80, and then I managed the restaurant. When I came back from school, the idea was so that Mom could stay home. So Mom stayed home to raise Laura, Sergio, and Abel. Were still home. Hector and Alma, of course, were out of the house by then, but she was able to kind of semi-retire and stay home. So I ran the restaurant from '80 to '83. And then that's when I decided, with Mom and Dad's blessing, I went off to Monahans to open the restaurant. So I was there for 3 years and sold my half to the late Dave Pointer from the Pointer family here in Muleshoe, who'd been here many, many years. And then Debbie and I went to a little town called Whitesboro, which is north of Dallas. And we were there for 5 years, had a thriving business, but our lease came up. And at that time, Dad's health was pretty bad. His back was pretty bad, and Mom was struggling a lot just to keep the restaurant open because it was all on her shoulders. So he called me up and he asked me, would I consider coming back and buying them out? And Roman was born in '91. We opened the restaurant. We moved back in '92. He was almost exactly a year old. So Roman is about to turn 26 this year. So he was a year old when we moved back, and so that would be '92. And we took over the restaurant and bought Mom and Dad out. They completely retired. And then within 1 year, we moved it to the bigger location. We started out at the location where we'd been since 1969 over by Farm Bureau. We still have that building. We donate it to the food pantry, Bailey County Ministerial Alliance, and we have for the last, since we moved, so I guess 20 years, I think the Ministerial Alliance has used that building. But yeah, so we moved back then, and then I just got involved. People asked me to, run for hospital board, so I did, and serve on the chamber board. So when you're a small town, you wear a lot of different hats, and you give back to your community. Dad had been on the the hospital board, and Bob Finney, who was the president of the bank at that time, asked me to consider, running because, Dad had served at one time. So I ran for the hospital board and served there for several years. Then I had several people ask me to run for mayor. And I thought it was the craziest idea. I just didn't know what mayors did, or I was busy, raising my family and running my business. But
now, by that time, you had two sons.
I had Noah was probably about 2 years old, and that would make Roman about 7. And so anyway, I wasn't necessarily thrilled about running for mayor, but I was cornered at the restaurant by about 15 folks, and kind of a lot of the same people there in the room here today. And they asked me, Robert Montgomery, who did a fantastic job as mayor, and I really honor his service to our community, but he decided he wasn't going to run for re-election. And so folks were looking for somebody to run, and they asked me to do that. And I got into government, elected position, and I found I really enjoyed it. I felt like, not to sound prideful, but I just felt like I had a gift for it. I felt like I was able to bring people together. I was able to figure out solutions to problems. I was able to articulate, the positions that I have, without being ugly about it. So I really enjoyed it. Had a really good time. I was elected twice. You get elected in your hometown at the time that you grow up in as mayor. It's a real honor because people know you, know what you're about. So, that's the biggest honor I've ever had, is representing my hometown.
The biggest honor you've ever had is representing Muleshoe as mayor?
The biggest honor in terms of elected in public life, yes, it's, I would say, and now having kids and things like that, obviously, sure, that's a different thing. But yes, yes, absolutely, the biggest honor. I've been on a lot of state agencies. The governor's, asked me to serve on, several agencies, on committees, for tax reform, for school tax reform. All those things have been great. But serving the folks that I grew up with, earning the vote of the people that taught me, that raised me, that coached me, that I worked with, that have known me all my life, to have their vote and their support, absolutely. That's the most meaningful thing to me, because what that says is we trust you. We trust you with this vote. We believe you're going to do a good job. And with that comes a load of responsibility. And I've never taken that lightly. Never missed a meeting at city council. Always did, what I felt was right for the taxpayers and for the residents. And so it's a heavy burden, but it's one that I always ask God to give me wisdom for. And any kind of service, nobody does it on their own. You have to cry out to God and realize that, He gives us the strength, the wisdom, and that's what I'll just continue to do. But sure, it was a huge honor and continues to be. And that's why I wanted to launch my campaign right here in my hometown.
And now, what do you own in Muleshoe today?
Recently sold the apartments that I had. We had some property here, and I recently sold those just a few months ago. But still own the restaurant that we used to have, the property over there that we used to have, that we moved to in 1969, as I spoke about. Still have the restaurant here. Debbie and I own the original restaurant, and we employ about 50 folks here, and they make good money. They're good paying jobs, and most of our staff has been with us for many years, and so they're like family to us. So we still own the restaurant property. We still own the property, the other restaurant we've had since '69. My mom's here. Slept at her house last night. She still lives same house that I grew up in. We moved into that home when I was 8 years old, and it's so wonderful to be able to come back home, sleep in your same place that you grew up in. It's just pretty amazing to still have that available. And then I have a brother here, Sergio Leal, Father Sergio Leal, and he has his family is starting to grow and move away as well. But I have a niece here. I have a lot of family here. I think I counted that we have about 13 in the district. I think we have 13 or 14 nieces and nephews that are in the public schools. And in Muleshoe, I think we have about 8 or 9.
And what year did you move from Muleshoe?
It was 2004 that Debbie and I decided to expand our business to Amarillo. And so we moved there in 2004. It was the last part of we opened the restaurant in 2004 there. So we've been open over there for 13 years now, and the people in Amarillo have been very gracious to us.
And where are the boys now?
Roman, having Irma Leal, Jesse Leal, entrepreneurial spirit. He opened up a coffee shop, and he's still roasting coffee and has a retail shop in Amarillo. It's called Evocation Coffee. He and Amy, my daughter-in-law, they've been married almost 4 years now, started that in our garage probably about 7 years ago or so, and they've expanded, and they roast 700 or 800 pounds of coffee now a week ship it all over. When I go see him, this one's going to Austin, this one's going to Plainview, this one's going to Lubbock. So they're shipping coffee all over, and they ship it to several accounts across the United States as well. And then Noah just began his senior year at St. John's College, which is a liberal arts college where they teach philosophy. They do the Socratic method. It's a fantastic school, small school in Santa Fe, and he just started his senior year.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming home.
It's good to be home. When I was walking in here, I felt like singing, "It's good to touch the green, green grass of home." Do you remember that song?
It sure is good.
I love you. God bless you.
And we've been talking with Victor Leal. He is now a declared candidate for Senate in the state of Texas.